Okay, hello everyone. My name is Mitri, and today, in about 20 minutes, you'll get the full understanding of VueJS, what is it, and the difference between the library and framework as a bonus feature. So, we'll actually start with that. And here we are, the library and framework. In the world of programming, the difference between a library and a framework is often a source of confusion and debate. So, as a junior developer or the person who just starts learning programming, you may ask a question, what the hell is a library or a framework? And bear with me, you can have everything you need to know about the library in just a few minutes. So, the library, we'll start from that. A library, essentially, is a collection of implementation of behavior written in terms of a language and has a well-defined interface by which the behavior is invoked. So what is the principle of building a library? Imagine you have a code. To understand the library, we need to go back to the beginning of the libraries. One of the biggest issues back then was how complicated the code was. Since application had to be written as a whole, when they got bigger and even more advanced, the number of bugs drastically increased. So a way to split an application to smaller parts was introduced. The new solution became a basis of what we know as a library. So which had something else to grow, but not your code. I'm about to tell you what you can do. So the next big step was implementation of so-called KISS rule. Or keep it simple, stupid. To fulfill any module or library had to do one thing or to do it well. The libraries help you to shrink the code and grow your awesomeness at the same time. So, that's the library. So combining with the principle in which every different problem can be split into multiple smaller problems, which are then independently solved, we get the current library system. That's it, simple as that. So, next thing, framework. Framework is described as an abstraction in which a software providing generic functionality can be selectively changed by additional user-written code and thus providing application-specific software. What is the principle again? Like, when we came to that idea of framework. Let's analyze what the previous statement means. The first thing we should do is think about what the abstraction means. Well, in programming, abstraction describes something that is half finished when it's up to an end user or end class to fill the gap. This is it, roommate gap. We can read it later. So another thing to note about abstraction is that it already contains information about what those gaps are and how they should be filled. So like this example. Actually, you can see description of this. Well, let's take a look on an example. Iterator is an abstraction that must have a way of getting a current object and moving to the next one, like this, a Mona Lisa picture. An iterator in this case would be some kind of drawing algorithm that just draws, that adds color or draws the picture, the end picture. So similarly, a framework contains a list of rules that need to be fulfilled to make the finished product. And here we are. What is a library? What is a framework? We know already. And now, library versus framework. Now, that we know the framework and libraries are, let's compare them and find out where and when you can use them. The first and the most important difference between the framework and the library is the master-slave model. So, as you can see here, your code, the library, and a framework can form a triangle relationship. So, when you use a library, you are the master. Yeah, the master, senpai. So in libraries, a code is calling a function and gets a response in return. On the other hand, framework is using your code, so it works as a master. That means you don't have control over what will happen and when, which is the responsibility of framework. The advantage is that you have less things to worry about, but you also have less control over that. As I already mentioned, frameworks often tie your hands and prevent you from doing both stupid and some useful things. So, a framework is calling your functions, and you are returning responses. This has a tremendous impact on debugging, since application flow is independent for a programmer. It's impossible to make breakpoint-based debugging, thus follow the flow of data to find issue. So the only solution is to use some tools provided to you by the framework itself. While in libraries you can just look at the data that goes in and comes out of functions to find sort of problem. So overall, frameworks are more opinionated and libraries are more flexible. Both patterns of abstraction have their place in the world of programming, and while neither is inherently better, it's important to determine which is appropriate for the problem you're solving. That's it, the difference. And now the presentation continues with examining VueJS from an outsider point of view. So yeah, finally, VueJS. So this presentation is not meant to be a comprehensive look at Vue, but rather just a presentation that sells you a framework. So, what is Vue? VueJS is a progressive framework for you to create user interfaces. Core focuses only on the view layer of your application, but leaves you free to integrate other libraries and tools inside your framework or a project, and can entirely used to build more robust single-page application, or SPAs. So, let's start from the history. The creator and his creation. Ever heard of the prejudice? Roses are red, violets are blue, and there's always an Asian who's better than you. Hold on a moment. I have something better. The core creator of VueJS is even you. So yeah, now we can tell, like, even you know who's even you is. So he was a Chinese. He is a Chinese, actually. So he was born in China, in a town called Wuxi. Hope my Chinese doesn't suck that much. He arrived in USA and got his bachelor degree of art and history of art, and then a master degree at the famous Parsons School of Design. However, Ivan always had contact with development. JavaScript was the language that he always had an interest in, and because it's simple and at the same time you can share with the world through web, so like writing an application, posting it to GitHub, and then just sharing a link with everyone. So meanwhile, until starting to develop the VueJS, he worked on Google and Meteor projects. Coincidentally, he used Angular in this period to work on Google. So in the end, he just took the best parts out of Angular and used them to create the holy grail. Well, I mean VueJS, of course. So the Vue project was published on GitHub in February 2014. The initial idea was always to create a progressive framework where the core is primarily composed only to focus on the data links as well as on components. It also has the desire to do something more developer-friendly, making anyone who knew just HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to learn Vue and use it directly and quick. So Vue is a growing framework, and the number of users who are joining is impressive. The number of users, yeah, is impressive. So let's get down to business, actually. So Vue allows structural flexibility and makes the reuse of components easy in your application. In just a few words, does not get on your way. You have the power to write and structure your application however you want. This freakish feature makes it suitable for building big and highly scalable web applications. So, VueJS, the good parts. First of all, VueJS, the good parts. I should mention all of them. So, first of all, focus, then simplicity, then flexibility, and then copying competitors. Wow, with this list I feel like I'm selling you a new iPhone. So, focus. Vue has a narrow use case, building user interfaces for the web. And the main idea is to be focused. So Vue is focused, but take a look at this picture. It's kind of hard to focus, haven't you? Have you had problems with focus just right now? Like, do you have something more focusable to focus on? So yeah, that was a joke. Well, Vue doesn't have problems with focus. It focuses on building interface for web. The focus allows Vue to avoid the bloat of other frameworks, but just as importantly, the minimal surface area of its API allows its creators to focus more on improving Vue than maintaining. So it's like you just create a thing and add features, not maintaining and supporting and fixing bugs and all sorts of stuff. So the next one, simplicity. Vue code has simplicity built into its design. One of the most important things you need to know about VueJS before building your first VueJS application is Vue instance. Every Vue application has a root instance called Vue. A Vue instance can be created by using new Vue, like new and class name, anything, with optional objects which can contain templates, data, objects, etc. In other words, we can see Vue instance as intermediary between your data and the Vue. So let's take a look at the Hello World example. When you're creating a Vue application, you just add the link as a simple link for scripting tag, like any other JS file you link to HTML, and then you write an object in your main JS file, and you add a template, div ID, and something like an index for your template inside your index.html file. So, and yeah, you're ready to start. No polyfilling, no transpiling, no wrestling with bundlers. You just make file and bind the data and the template inside together. Yeah, it's that simple. And even you, not you, but the person, even you, always said, I really care about the approachability part of Vue, which is rooted in the belief that technology should be enabling more people to build things. Pretty beautiful. So, next thing, flexibility. Yeah, it has it, definitely. So, if you want to write a quick and easy app that will run straight from the browser, Vue has got you covered, basically. If you want to build more sophisticated app with ES6, JSX, separate component file routing, bindings, like building blocks, etc., then Vue can deal with that too. Vue is focused regarding what it can do for you, but not opinionated about how you do it. So you're free to just mentally, not mentally. So you're free to use it as you like, but there are some basic rules. But for example, if you prefer some kind of method of writing a template, VueJS lets you to do it in your way. For example, write a template in HTML file, write a template in a string, a JS file, use JSX in a JavaScript file, or make a template in pure JavaScript using virtual nodes. Something awesome, really. This flexibility makes it easy to switch to Vue because React developers, Angular developers, or developers new to JS frameworks in general would all find Vue design familiar. Next, copying competitors. If what Vue is getting right is what its predecessors already got right. Just ask an Angular developer. So, oh crap, that's funny, I have this Vue sign a bit moved in my presentation, not in the recorded ones. So, sorry. So, VueJS directives copy Angular's directives right down to the syntax. To bind an input to application data in Vue, you use V model, just like Angular's ng model. Then, as a relatively late mover, Vue has been able to copy what works in other frameworks and avoid what doesn't. Vue State Manager, for example, Vue State Manager actual library, VueX, Vue State Management Library, has obviously been inspired from Elm. And then here comes Polymer. Vue components are very similar to Polymer's custom elements. Oh, it's hard to speak for that long. In its latest version, Vue is now rocking a virtual term of React. So yeah, copying also. Vue is earning its place by being a great solution, but not quite an original one. So, with that in mind, we come to the things that VueJS is lacking. And VueJS is lacking, because it's young, it's lacking a support and spread around the world. And because it's progressive, like something new, like grunge music was back in the days, some question it. Some question like whether it should be done this way or that way, so questionable. And some companies like Alibaba and Baidu, they are already picked up Vue as their main framework for application, but some more examples of high traffic websites would question Vue's integrity at scale, like whether it's scalable or something. So, flexibility, again. Maybe there's such a thing as being too flexible. An Ember app will always look like an Ember app. So, but Vue multitude of options might become a burden when used in large projects involving many developers. Next thing, documentation. And it's incredibly simple, like simple as hell. Even a team have put so much effort in making Vue website a really learning tool instead of just a bucket of information. Most of the sections are well thought, providing tips and actually useful information. Here's the links that you can use to have a brief look on VueJS, and it's like components. You can see the Vue router, VueX, like a state management router, an awesome Vue. I think it's some kind of beautifier, like a style with the materials design style, pardon the pun. So take a look at that. So that guy, the creator, he created something awesome. Even if you don't realize all of its power in the beginning, I'm sure that when you start building a bigger project, you're facing some difficulties, you'll be amazed by the fact that you can usually find all the answers within that documentation. So I think that's pretty awesome. Vue is simplicity and transparency. The community is growing and growing a lot. And I hope I have given you a summary of what I know based on my experience with Vue and the documentation actually. So thank you for watching. Cheers to you. Oh, I love coffee. Coffee for developers.